Hey everybody. I want to kind of share with all of you guys some things that we are going to be changing into the ministry going forward with the upcoming school year, the 2017-2018 school year. A lot of these changes are some things that I have been really feeling called to do, and truth is, over the past year, I've been slowly trying to guide the ministry towards a lot of these things that we're going to do. I don't know if you can see it. My little viewfinder on my camera, or little screen that I get to see, it looks kind of blurry. So I don't know if you can see the actual words that are written on the board, but I'm going to talk about these things. This past weekend, I took my leadership team down to Galveston for a leadership development weekend to kind of get them trained and prepared for what's about to come, and it was a huge success. And for anyone who may feel left out, I want to address that real quick. Please understand that within the ministry, I actually have a variety of different leadership teams. But there's one in particular, the one that went to Galveston with me this past weekend, that is the official documented leadership team within the United Methodist Church. If you're not familiar with the Methodist Church, we're very big on committees and on democracy, going to the people that we serve and seeking what God is placing on their hearts and using them to kind of keep us as pastors and staff members accountable for what we do. So, you know, if you feel left out or didn't get to go to this leadership development down in Galveston this past weekend, I'm sorry. It was for a very select group of people that have a very specific responsibility in the ministry. But every single one of you guys are vital and important to the success of this ministry. From people who help run the tech booth, meaning the computer or the sound, to the bands, to my official documented leadership team, to all of my adult volunteers. And everybody in between all of that, you guys are very vital to the health and maintenance of this ministry. So I want to kind of break down a few things and kind of share with you some things that are on my heart. And the first thing that I want to talk about, and I'm going to get to these things here in a second, but the first thing I want to kind of talk about is the purpose of this video. One thing that I want to be very intentional on this upcoming school year is really training and loving on the adults who volunteer. I feel like I've just really failed in that department. I feel like I have not done a good enough job reaching the parents of the students, and I really want to change that. I understand that we're all very, very busy. I'm busy, you all are busy, and so it's hard to find some time, especially during the school year, to sit down and actually just be with one another, sit down and have me train you guys. Because here's the thing, we have a variety of different skills and different talents, different educational levels, different experiences that all make us good at what we do and valuable to the ministry. So moving forward, I'm going to supplement actual one-on-one, person-to-person, in-person training sessions with these videos. I'm going to be publishing a couple of these in the fall semester, talking about a variety of different things that you as adults need to know, but more importantly for the parents, because all of you are parents of students in this ministry, so that all the parents really know what is going on in the ministry and are able to stay connected. While I would love every single adult parent to be involved in ministry, I understand that some may not attend church. Some may have some issues with church, but encourage their children to go. And so I know that it's not suited for everybody. And not all parents are suited to work in student ministries as an adult volunteer. So this way I can train you guys, but also keep the parents and the adults connected, just so that everybody is kind of on the same page. So let's look at the changes that are coming to the youth group coming in a couple of weeks. I don't know if you guys know this. I should be publishing this here shortly. But Wednesday, August 23rd, will be our very first youth group of the school year. That's when we're coming back to the regular schedule of everything. For high schoolers, we have the gathering from 3:30 to 5. In junior high, if you have no other means of being able to get back to the church after school, then I do allow you guys to come to the gathering. But please understand that the gathering is primarily for the high schoolers to really decompress and to fellowship and disciple with one another. But again, junior high students, if you have no other means to get back to the church later on in the evening for youth group, please come on out to the gathering. Youth group starts at 5 o'clock. The doors open up at 5 o'clock. And for about 30 minutes, we just kind of hang out. We spend a lot of time on the third floor playing pool and talking about our day and just kind of reconnecting as a youth group. About 5:30-ish, we go downstairs for fellowship dinner. Fellowship dinner costs $1. And please, parents, understand, and students, if you're watching this as well, understand that we need you guys to pay that dollar. It costs a lot of money out of the budget of the ministry to pay for you to eat. And that money that we use to help pay for you guys to eat takes away from our ability to do things in the ministry, to upgrade the ministry, to go on different trips and events. So please, parents and kids, it's only $1. Don't spend that dollar on candy and soda when you get here. Use it for an actual meal. But also understand that if you forget your dollar, or maybe things are just tight at home and you don't have $1, we are more than happy to help pay for it. I'm just really wanting to address students who come in and drop $5, $6, $7 on candy and soda and then expect the ministry to pay for their dinner. That's not cool, and that's just not the way that we need to be running our finances. But we go to dinner, and then at about 6 o'clock we will have an activity. Typically it's outside in the courtyard where we're having dinner, and it's a game that just kind of gets everybody together. It allows us to do some team building and some bonding. But also allows us to run out a lot of the energy from the sugar and the soda and the stuff that we've just eaten. And after that, we'll head upstairs to the second floor, to Holy Ground, where we have worship, message, and then we have some other things that we go on from there. Youth group ends at 7:30, and that's when students get picked up. And parents, please, try to be at the church before 7:30. The adults who volunteer for my ministry, they've just spent all day working. So having to stay until 8, 8:30, 9 o'clock, which has happened sometimes, that's hard on them. Because if you don't know, the United Methodist Church uses a policy called Safe Sanctuary that protects the adults, the students, and myself as a staff member. And so being alone with students, while in the most dire emergencies is okay, for the most part I need another adult present with me when I'm around students, just to keep us all safe, because unfortunately other people across the country have just mistreated and abused their position, and now it makes it difficult for pastors like me to be able to do my job. So when they have to stay here until that late, it's hard on them. So please, come and pick your students up outside the Discipleship building at 7:30. Remember, August 23rd, it's a Wednesday. It's 2 days after we start school, we're back to regular youth group. Okay, now on to the board. On the board it says changes that are coming to ministry, changes to ministry. The very first thing I want to talk about is discipleship groups. One of the things that I observed over the entirety of last school year was the conflict that we experienced within small groups. And I was really curious about why we were fighting and having issues, and students not wanting to come back and adults not wanting to come back. And one of the things that just dawned on me was the whole purpose behind small groups. So as of this past weekend, it's official. We no longer have small groups. We're not meeting as small groups anymore. But instead, we're meeting as discipleship groups. What's the difference? And I'm sure that all of you guys are kind of thinking this. What's the difference? Small groups is all about the me. It's all about what am I benefiting from this interaction with my classmates and the adults who are volunteering. How am I growing in my faith, and what am I taking away from this? If you've caught something very specific, it's all about the me. It's all about the individual. And while the individual is important, what tends to happen, and what I noticed last year, is that because we are so fixated on what we gain, we tend to get upset and frustrated and hurt if people don't pay attention to us. Maybe they don't agree with our points of views, or maybe they may make remarks about something we say under their breath, or maybe to their friend, and we get very, very offended and hurt by this. So I want to get rid of that. While that model was very good when I first got here, was a way for us to kind of unify the ministry, it has become a detriment to the actual health of the ministry. So by focusing on discipleship groups, what we're able to do is really focus on the purpose for being here. What is the purpose of church? Why did Jesus establish what we have today? Well, he established it for one simple fact: to serve. You see, people have this misunderstanding of church that it's all about the me. It's all about consuming what I can get my hands on. It's all about self-help. I am coming to church so I can become a better person. What ways can I use this message? What ways can I use this environment to make myself a better person? And while that's not entirely a bad thought, it's the wrong thought, because that's not what Jesus did. That's not what he established. That's not his whole purpose for existence. He created the church that we have now as a means to serve. You come to church in order to learn how to serve someone else. It's all about the other people. It's about the other individuals who are in desperate need of our love, compassion, forgiveness, grace, mercy. All these characteristics that God allows us to have and kind of imprints on our spirits. And so, by creating this mindset where we step away from the me and we focus on the we, all of a sudden we have this ability to start to really nurture a very healthy environment for the teenagers to be able to grow. And not just as Christians, but as individuals. One of the most difficult aspects of growing up is learning that the world does not revolve around you. That you don't make the rules. The more you fight them, the more difficult life becomes. So instead, if we can raise our children to believe that our whole purpose, the reason for being called into Christianity as a faith, is so that we can better ourselves by serving someone else. You see, this is made apparent throughout Jesus' ministry. But most importantly, if you look at John chapter 17, we see this made plainly clear. In John chapter 17, it is the very last act that Christ does for his disciples. Understand that Jesus is a literal king. And it's not some mythological ideology or some cool story that Hollywood could make into an awesome action-packed movie like King Arthur. No, Jesus is a real king. His kingdom is the entire universe. It's everything that exists. We are his servants. Don't misunderstand servant with slave. They're two different things, and at a later date I may talk about that, but we are his servants. He is our master. We are his disciples, and he is our rabbi, our teacher. And so the point of discipleship groups is for us to really dig down deep into that concept. Looking at how Christ serves, just like in John chapter 17. Praying for himself, praying for his disciples, praying for the entire world. It's his last act of service to everyone else. This king serving everyone else instead of sitting there on his throne waiting for someone to serve him. So, what is the point of a discipleship group? Well, let me look at the first word, disciple, or the root of discipleship, disciple. I did a lot of research into what Jesus talks about when he describes what being a disciple is and why he calls the people who follow him his disciples. You see, Jesus lived about 2,000 plus years ago, and everything that he taught and everything that he did, while because it is perfect applies to us, was never intended for us. It was intended for the first century Israel, in a time that they understood the concept of a disciple and a rabbi. So a disciple in first century context is all about learning how to become a rabbi. And this happens when an individual memorizes the Old Testament, or what they call the Torah. And I'm not saying memorize as in, I can kind of quote something to you, I know it exists, and I might paraphrase it. No, literally memorize it, word for word, verse for verse, chapter to chapter, book to book. They have to learn how to read, they have to learn how to write. But then once they get all this stuff done, then they learn the most valuable lesson of first century Jewish tradition, which is debating. Learning how to debate with one another in a healthy, respectful way so that we can grow from one another. What does that look like, and what do I mean? Please, parents and students, don't think that I'm going to create an environment where you guys are fighting and arguing. There's a difference between a debate and an argument. You see, in first century Israel, when a disciple joins a synagogue and he was learning from a rabbi, he would be in a class of other disciples, and they would spend every single day asking the hard questions, both of themselves, but also of each other. They asked, why? Why do we believe what we believe? What ways does God interact with us? What ways does God challenges us? What can we do as a group, as a creation, draw closer to God? And so in discipleship groups, that's the whole purpose. The whole purpose is for each of us to be able to ask questions that we desire to ask, but are too afraid to ask. We're too afraid to ask because maybe we're afraid of being ridiculed, made fun of. Maybe we think the question's stupid. Maybe we assume we should already know the answer. I can tell you there's more than 90% of the students who attend this youth group who leave every single week with questions that they were too afraid to ask. And I want to end that. So in discipleship groups, we're not focused on the individual anymore. We're focused on us as a group. So we're going to have this environment where we can ask each other the hard question, not because I want to challenge your personal beliefs, but because I don't understand them. Because maybe God has laid truth on your heart, and I want to draw closer to God. So I want to understand what you're thinking and experiencing and feeling so that I can grow. Think of it this way. Let's say you're not feeling too well, so you go to the doctor. But all you tell them is that you're experiencing pain. Okay, that's a start, but your doctor can't help you at all. So then the doctor asks the hard questions. Why are you feeling pain? Where are you feeling pain? At what degree are you feeling pain? You see, when we're sitting in the doctor's office, we are not offended by these questions. We're encouraged by them, and we answer them honestly. But then you take our faith. Why do you believe what you believe? Oh, don't say that. Don't question that. Don't ask me that. How dare you? Who are you? You have no right to ask me that. Well, why? It's okay for a doctor to ask about your health, but I can't ask about your spirit, which is just as important as your physical health. But you see, as you're sitting in the doctor's office and you're answering these questions, the doctor slowly starts to figure out what is wrong. Now, there's nothing wrong with your beliefs, but by asking, why do you believe what you believe, I, as a youth pastor, but also as a fellow disciple, can better understand what you believe so that I can serve you better. If I ask you, why do you do what you do? Why do you behave the way that you behave? Why are you so loud and full of energy? I better understand that you enjoy going out and doing things. So for my way to serve you, I'm going to go out into the world with you. I'm going to go to the mall. We're going to go to the movies. We're going to go do something. You see, if I just invited you over to sit down in my library and read a book, how is that helping you? So all of this debating, all of these questions are not meant to offend anybody. It's not meant to hurt you or attack you, but is for the entire group to better understand every single person who attends. So we're going to be asking the hard questions. And in discipleship groups, it's not going to be adult-led anymore. While I will still have a guide for every single one of you adults who volunteer, I really want to put an emphasis on the group. Because here's the thing. In Christ's time, when a disciple became competent enough, he would eventually become a rabbi. Not with Jesus. None of us can ever become a rabbi because Christ died. 3 days later, he rose from the grave and lives forever. He is an eternal teacher, an eternal rabbi that we can never become better. We can become like him, but we can never become better than him. So we're all on the same page. We're all disciples. From me as a seminary graduate to my sixth graders just entering into the ministry. So you see, we're all on the same playing field. None of us are ahead of anybody else. Now, I may know more because I have spent intentional time studying, but I grow and learn from every single one of you guys, from students to parents to adults. So with the discipleship group, I want everyone to feel free to ask these tough questions of themselves and of everyone in the room. We're doing it out of love. We're trying to unify the ministry through loving each other. Because that's what Jesus wants. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. So that's what we're going to be starting to do at the end of the message near the end of this month. When we go back to youth group, we'll have discipleship groups, not small groups. And lastly, with discipleship groups, I want everyone to understand that we're not going to be looking at just a high and low for my life. What good things and bad things are happening in my life, but instead we're going to be doing a prayer request and blessings. But not just with me, but with anything we experience in the world. If we see a homeless man as we're going to school, I want you guys to bring that to ministry and lift that individual up in prayer, because God knows exactly who you're talking about. If you see, a sunrise or a sunset that just inspires you to think about Jesus, that's a blessing. And you see someone in the parking lot helping someone else put groceries away, that's a blessing. But you see, when we focus on these things, when we focus on other people, that inspires the rest of the group. When you share a prayer request or a blessing like this, someone may step up and serve you by saying, hey, I know that this individual is hurting and struggling, and I want to lift them up in prayer right now. You didn't ask for it. You didn't do anything for it, but it inspired someone to serve you, because that's the point. We are not here for self-help. We are not here to consume. I know that goes against everything we are as an American culture, but we are here to serve each other. That's discipleship groups. The next thing is the way that we are teaching in the message. You see, everything we've done before is basically the tradition of all churches. We take a topic, let's say for teenagers, let's say it's premarital sex. We take a topic and then we find scripture to fit that topic. It's not bad, it's not entirely wrong, but it's not exactly right either. And a lot of times it becomes very self-centered, because instead of trying to see what God is saying, we're using what we think is our interpretation. So instead, we're going to, and this is a seminary term, if you can see this on the board, it's just a seminary term, exegetical teaching. It's a fancy way of just saying, we're going to listen to God. We're going to read the entirety of the Gospel of Luke, the Gospel of John, and Acts. From August to May, we're going to read everything, so that we can see truly what God is saying to us. Not what we interpret God is saying, but what God truly is saying. So what's happening is that we may have a teaching series that lasts 1 week, or may last 8 weeks. It's all dependent upon what God is trying to ask us to do. It's really trying to see what God is saying to us. That's exegetical teaching. This is going to be a real challenge because I've never done this before. And I know that Sam Jackson, my college intern, and Caleb and Morgan, some of my leaders and some of the people who help give messages throughout the year, none of them have ever done this. So this is going to be a challenge. This is going to be hard. Because this takes it away from the me and looks at the we. Because here's the thing. We're going to read Scripture and we're going to learn things about God that may not apply to us right now. It may take 10, 15, 20 years before what we talk about in that specific message to actually apply to our lives. But that is God. God doesn't do everything for you in the exact moment. Sometimes He teaches you a lesson that starts to take effect years down the road. But it's important that we plant these seeds. It's important that we learn these lessons right now. So that's exegetical teaching. And lastly, as I said at the beginning of this video, is adult training. I really want to be intentional with all of my adult volunteers and really all the parents and train them on how to help their children walk down this difficult path. You know, a few years ago when I was in seminary, there was a study that came out that said about 80% of students age ranging from 18 to 24 would leave the faith. Not just church, leave the faith. 80%. It's a lot of kids. We want to be a ministry that uplifts and affirms students, that prepares them for the real world. Because youth group and youth ministry, student ministries, whatever you want to call it, is not the end-all be-all. And one of the big things that I really want to encourage all of you to do is to attend Sunday morning worship. Here at First United Methodist Church in Livingston, we have 3 services. We have a 9 o'clock gospel service that's held in the sanctuary. We have a 9 o'clock contemporary worship service, which is upstairs on the 2nd floor of the Discipleship Building in our Holy Ground, called Holy Ground Worship. And then we have 11 o'clock service, that's the traditional service that's in the sanctuary. You see, that's where you're going to spend the majority of your life in church. And so our job is to train them and get them ready to go to big church so that they can go and serve the adults and serve each other and serve everyone in the community. Because that is Christianity. Christianity at its core is about serving others. It's not about what we consume. And again, I know this goes counter to everything that is a teenager and everything our American culture teaches us. We look at Black Friday. Black Friday is all about what you can consume. What can you gain from it? What sort of things can you purchase for yourself? Maybe what can you purchase for someone else, but it's also that you can look big, so that you can look important. Look, I spent only $150 on a $500 4K TV. I'm a good gift giver. That's what our culture teaches us. We go to a fast food restaurant. The first thing is, how can I supersize it? How can you consume more? How can you get a bigger portion? How can you get more for yourself? That's not Christianity. That's not relevant youth. We are here to love you, to love each other, to serve you and to serve each other. So, I just want to remind all of you, for the third and last time, youth group starts back up on Wednesday, August 23rd with the gathering starting at 3:30 and youth group officially starting at 5 p.m. Pickup is at 7:30. So parents, please, again, try to be there at 7:30 to pick your children up. Thank you so much for watching this video. I love every single one of you guys. I miss you terribly. I cannot wait to see you all when we get back to youth group in a couple of weeks. Keep me in your prayers. If you don't know, I'm getting married on Saturday to an amazing woman, Natalie Jean. She's a former youth pastor out at First United Methodist Church in Bryan, but she's moved here and going to help out with the youth group as much as she can. But we leave on Sunday for our honeymoon, for a week-long honeymoon. So please just keep us in your prayer that we can come together as husband and wife and that we have safe travel so that we can come back to you guys and love and serve you. God bless.